Afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom Scott, so I'm the Deputy Head of the UK's Office for Quantum. We are the central policy team responsible for overseeing the UK's quantum strategy. So I'm going to be giving the UK update, and the UK strategy is all about driving the development, scale, industrialization, and adoption of quantum technologies. I want to reflect a bit on what's come before. So the UK had the first ever national program, which has been running for 10 years, and we've invested over £1 billion of public investment. That has leveraged significant private investment as well. We now have a thriving ecosystem. We tend to top the tables when it comes to research, private investment, number of companies, and we have broad capabilities across quantum computing, both from a sort of software, hardware, different platforms, but also sensing, timing, imaging, communication networks. This is slightly out of date now, but I think it shows the breadth and the strength of the UK ecosystem. As I said, across different computing platforms, different technologies, and also end users. A big part of our strategy is bringing end users together with the technology to accelerate use case exploration, investment, and ultimately adoption. So you can see a large component of the UK industrial base is already engaged in the program at this early stage. So what next? We're thinking about the next phase of the program at the moment. This is very much about capitalizing on the industrial opportunity that we have in the UK that we've delivered through the first 10 years of the program. That is largely through the delivery of our quantum mission programs, which I'll come to speak to in a second, but also through investing in things like scale-up infrastructure, nanofabrication facilities for companies to support scaling, and also driving demand signaling and government procurement in the UK. So we recognize that we need to bring end users together with the technology to understand what the end users' requirements are to accelerate demand signaling, both from a public and private sector perspective. I think our National Quantum Computing Centre testbed program is a really good example of this, where we have 7 different computing platforms under one roof, and it allows us as government to understand, test, and evaluate different computing technologies to inform future procurement type decisions. And international partnerships are really key as well, and I'll come on to that in a second. These are our quantum missions. I'm not going to go through all of them in detail. A few things that I would just pick out. One being that the Mission 1, our computing headline, the headline is very hardware focused, but this is a full stack portfolio approach. And what I mean by that is we are supporting a portfolio of different platforms in the UK, across superconducting, ion trap, photonic, and others, because we feel that we have the capability in the UK to support the breadth of opportunities in our sector. But we're also looking across the stack at software, algorithms, and applications, and the underpinning research needed to scale and integrate with HPC and AI as well. Our sensing and timing missions 3 to 5, we are calling out specific sectors where we feel there is significant opportunity for the UK. We want to drive the adoption of these technologies into the hands of users to demonstrate the value proposition of quantum technology as soon as possible. We realize these are very ambitious missions. However, we feel that if we can prove that quantum is a valuable capability for sectors such as healthcare, transport, defense, and others, that will help to engender more investment and more momentum to accelerate the sort of long-term growth opportunity that we're looking to capture. So how are we doing that in practice? Earlier this year in our industrial strategy, we announced over £500 million of funding for our quantum computing mission. So as I said, this is a full stack portfolio approach, but we will also be implementing a step change in how we're supporting this sector. So we recognize that industry's needs are evolving, and our approach needs to evolve to reflect that. The UK sector is growing up, and we need to support with different mechanisms, both through R&D investment, pre-commercial procurement type activities like the test beds, at a greater scale to support the scaling needs of this sector, and coupled with other things like scale-up funding. So we have our National Wealth Fund, British Business Bank, and our National Security Strategic Investment Fund that can provide strategic scale-up finance to support companies in the UK. We have been operating on relatively short budgetary cycles recently. However, we are now concluding a spending review process that will set the budgets for 4 years. This means that we can set out longer-term, multi-year programs, and we're hoping to roll out something that has a sort of gated approach that shows the progression from technology development through to implementation. Obviously, there's only some detail here on the funding for quantum computing. We will be setting out our, I guess, the support available for other areas, so our other quantum missions and cross-cutting enablers like infrastructure, skills, and international partnerships later on in the autumn. International collaboration is a really important part of our strategy. We have an incredibly open ecosystem in the UK. We have a large cohort of international companies operating in the UK. I mentioned the NQCC testbed program. We have 3 US companies who are all here collaborating in that program. And obviously just this week, IonQ has announced the UK as their EMEA headquarters. We have MOUs signed with 5 countries, you'll see here on the screen, Denmark, Netherlands, US, Canada, and Japan, to really accelerate bilateral collaboration in areas of mutual interest. And we also participate in the multilateral fora being convened globally, such as the Quantum Development Group that convened in Japan, I think it was 2 weeks ago. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the UK-US tech partnership. So for those of you that have been following the media, you'll see that President Trump is currently in the UK. He has been meeting with the King and also the Prime Minister. And one of the things that they have signed just this morning is a UK-US technology partnership agreement. So this is hot off the press. We've been working with our counterparts in the US administration for the last few months to identify areas of mutual interest, both in quantum, which is one of the 3 tracks identified, but also in nuclear and artificial intelligence as well. There are 6 specific areas of collaboration, which I've listed on the screen here, which are areas where we feel that the UK and the US can benefit from collaborating in areas such as benchmarking, HPC and AI convergence with quantum, research in underpinning areas, and also industry exchanges. I think it's important to note that this is a very important partnership for us, but this is one of a portfolio that I mentioned on the previous slide. That's the last thing I'll say. One thing to note is that we have our National Quantum Technology Showcase event in London on the 7th of November this year. We think it is one of the largest quantum events in the world. If you disagree, come and find me afterwards and we can debate. But this is a great opportunity, to see the breadth and diversity of the UK ecosystem that I mentioned earlier. And we also have a significant amount of international delegates coming to participate as well. So please, if you'd like to know more, I probably should have a fancy QR code. I don't. But please come and find me or just have a look online and you'll be able to see that. Thank you.